What's happening, everybody? Dan Beldowicz here, and today I am bringing you Undoing Unbalanced. And this is going to be a series all about undoing the unlife. And today's lesson in this video, I'm going to show you why balance is a myth and why you should stop chasing it and what you should do instead. Have you ever felt completely exhausted, run down, tired of meetings throughout the entire day? You work 9 to 5, you come home, now you've got to deal with everything else going on in your life and you're totally done. Your day's just getting started and you are out of it. You feel like you can't ever get ahead. You feel like you're falling behind at work. You feel like you never have time for your spouse, your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. There's never seemingly enough time. You always feel like when you're at work, you're thinking about home. When you're at home, you're thinking about work. When you're with the kids, you're thinking about what you should have did yesterday. This is an endless trap that just goes on and on and on and on. Never seems to get out of it. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of different examples of different people that have actually gone through this on the global stage. And you've seen them, you know them, you've heard of them, and you may not know all of their backstory and understand what they've actually gone through, but you're not the only one to go through this. I've been there, I've done it, and it sucks because you think you're just stuck. And every single day that you wake up, you never really just get ahead. And that's what I want to go through. One of the most famous examples, Elon Musk. When he was doing the Model 3 launch, he'd spend 120 hours on the factory floor. He slept there. He ate there. He did nothing but live there. Now, that is completely unbalanced on one side of the coin. And it took forever for him to figure out that there had to be a little bit more balance. And that's where we get into the kind of the lie and the misconception and the mindset of what undoing an unbalanced life looks like. When you really focus, and instead of looking at it as I've got to do 20 minutes of this a day, I've got to do 8 hours of sleep, I've got to do everything in small little increments throughout the day so that I stay balanced. There's another way to look at it. And I'll get to that as we get into this video. The second example I want to bring up is Arianna Huffington, the founder of the Huffington Post. She was doing everything. Her life was, her career trajectory was going crazy. The Huffington Post was blowing up. And she was spending all of her time arranging content, getting things done, being at the office, being a mom, all these different things. And it finally caught up with her when one day when she was at her office, she passed out and smashed her cheekbone, actually broke her cheekbone on her desk and woke up after getting knocked out in her own pool of blood to realize this isn't sustainable. She went on to actually leave the Huffington Post, her own creation, and create an entirely new company called Thrive Global. And the whole premise behind Thrive Global was to create success that's sustainable. Sustainable success, because you can't take the person out of the business, and sometimes you can't take the business out of the person, but you can figure out how to harmonize these different seasons of your life that you're going through. And we'll get into that as we start to talk about the real myth behind being unbalanced and what time management is and what time management isn't. So let's dive in, right? The lie behind all of this. The word balance is really just a trap. There's no way around it. And what we start thinking about is sometimes some of us are stuck in this, I never have enough time for my family. And I ran into this being a dad of 4. I remember being at a softball field, and I've got 4 kids. 3 of them play travel baseball and softball. The other one does dance. So we're all over the place all the time. And for years, I was the guy who was sitting in the outfield in a camping chair with my laptop out, typing away, trying to get work done while I'm at the fields. And it killed me. I hated it. I remember missing at-bats. I remember missing catches. I remember missing plays because I was too focused. When I was at the softball field or baseball field, I was focused on work. And it's just not right. Nobody's getting the best of you at that point. Can you relate? Can any of you relate? I know I'm not the only one. I know I was definitely, there are more moms and dads out there that I saw at the softball fields, on the tennis courts, and in the basketball games, volleyball games, football games, that had their laptops out, trying to do work while they were trying to enjoy their kids. And it just is, it's hard. It's hard because you always feel like you're behind. You're never done. The second one is that feeling of being behind at work. You walk in Monday morning and you know you're just going to get hammered. You know over the weekend that you've got this email to-do list piling up. Or if you've ever tried to take a vacation and you bring your laptop on vacation simply because you want to keep up with emails, and you know that when you get back, there's just going to be a boatload of things that you need to cover simply because you weren't engaged, you weren't on board, and you weren't checking your emails while you're there. And we're going to break it down because that is so common. People don't even feel like they can take a vacation. I always found it interesting that companies can offer unlimited PTO. And what the studies show, as I was talking to one of my HR friends, the studies actually show that when you offer more PTO, the less time people take off, right? So PTO is just paid time off. So the days off that you have, when people offer or companies offer unlimited PTO, they took less than 3 weeks on average every single year. It's a great perk, but most people don't use it. Most people get trapped in the fear of, well, if I use it, what are they going to think of me? Or if I use it, I'm going to fall behind. And it's simply there's never enough time, right? That's the only thing that's equal to us in all of humanity is time. We all get 24 hours in a day. What we do with those 24 hours is really what separates us and what sets the successful apart from those that are unsuccessful, from those that feel like they're making it to those that actually are. So where do you fall? Where do you actually start to see yourself doing this? I remember battling like this busyness factor at work, filling up my schedule. I was a VP of business development, and it was insane because they watched your calendar so microscopically that I ended up one day, I remember booking 16 half-hour meetings, and my calendar was stacked from 8:30 to 5 with just meetings. You know, if you've ever felt like that, and it's an extreme case, and that honestly, that happened more days than not at that place. And it was crazy because you get through a meeting, you decide a bunch of stuff, you'd walk out with 3 or 4 action items for yourself. And then when are you actually going to get it done? And that was when I really got good at block scheduling. I'd say, okay, fine. For these action items, I've got to block out another hour to actually get those things done or talk to the vendors to get things done. I had to be able to get better at communicating what comes out of that meeting, and even the AI summaries, even the AI action items, even using AI itself to generate some of the content, generate the different pieces that needed to get done. Didn't help. I never felt like I was getting ahead of where I was. I was constantly falling behind. My to-do list was going crazy. And it didn't matter how many vendors I had, how many assistants I had, there was never enough time to actually get something done. Now, if you've ever felt like that, just hit like right now, because it's so simple. It's so easy to get caught up in that life, especially at work, because you feel like you have to get it done. That fear of falling behind at work is one of the worst things, because that's your life support. That's how you support your life. You, your wife, your spouse, your kids, that's how you support everything that it is that you do. And if you fall behind there, money is one of the biggest traps where we feel like we have to be ahead, or in constantly paying the bills and staying ahead of everything that it is that we have. And the worst part is when you feel like you're never getting ahead on anything, that you're always behind on something, because that turns into mental momentum, right? It becomes a downward spiral of watching the clock every single day, right? That clock keeps on spinning. And it doesn't matter how much you do, what you try and do, your energy gets drained. And every time you go to sleep tired, you wake up tired. You never feel like you can get enough rest, because you always feel like there's something else that needs to get done. And I know I'm not the only person that I lived it for years, having 4 kids, chasing them around, working hard, trying to start a business on the side. There was never enough time. Running from field to field, working at the field, working in my car, taking naps during the day just to try and keep up. And I never felt like I had enough energy. And I never felt like I was getting ahead. And it's so draining. And that was when I started to figure this stuff out. That was when I really figured out that I was living in the fast lane. I was frustrated, right? Frustrated that I couldn't get ahead, that I wasn't where I wanted to be. I was anxious, thinking about all the different things that were coming up. That what if this happens? What if this project doesn't get done? What if I get let go from a job? And it's happened. Feeling stressed, right? That weight on your shoulders, the weight on your back, the weight on your chest. When you feel like you can't breathe, the stress and anxiety that builds, and the constantly being tired. That's what fast is. That's the fast lane. FAST. Frustrated, anxious, stressed, and tired. And it sucks. There's no way around it until you start to live life in a different way. It's being able to shift the mentality and shift into a part where you aren't just breaking down from all of this, right? If we start to look at what Elon Musk did after the Model 3 launch, and I know he also did it during the SpaceX launches when he blew up 3 different rockets, he stayed in it. But if we start to take some of the lessons from the most successful people, then we start to see things in seasons. We start to see them in different seasons of their life. And when we start to think in terms of seasons, we start to shift out of the fast lane and we start to regain control. This isn't always about equal time during the day. This starts to become about what it is, equal time for the purpose of the season that you're currently in. So when we start to think through what Musk did, right? Sometimes success requires imbalance. Sometimes we've got to be out of balance for a period of time so that we can be back in balance for another period of time. And if we start to think of the sine wave and things going in waves rather than everything being equal in a straight line, then we can see where we go out of balance to get something done. We come back in balance to revive, rest, recover, and rejuvenate. And that's where being aware of the seasons that you're in starts to have a different impact on it. With Arianna Huffington forming Thrive Global and starting to look at how do we create sustainable success, that was part of it. She started to really refocus her life, not just glorifying the hustle side of things, because hustle and the grind, that's what keeps you stuck in unbalanced, right? Instead, we think of mindfulness and personal well-being so that we can keep both sides. There's going to be a period of work, and then there's going to be a period of rest. And it's no different than what we do from bodybuilding and weight training, right? Rest and recovery is a massive part of any D1 athlete, any Olympian, or any professional athlete's training regimen. The rest and rejuvenation side is half of the equation, because if they don't, they can't sustain success. So stop chasing balance, start chasing the alignment in the season that you're in. So how do we do this? Let's start with first identifying the season that you're in. Are you in a building season right now? That means like it's grind time. It's, hey, I'm building a business. I'm shooting for certain sales numbers. I'm shooting for something. And when you know you get there, then you can start to go into season 2, which would be the healing season, right? Rest, rejuvenate, recover. Those 3 things is what you're then focused on. Sometimes these aren't, hey, day to day, week to week, month by month. Unfortunately, I had a year where it was just rejuvenate, rest, recover. I went through 2 major surgeries. I was long list of health issues that knocked me out, ended up in me having 2 major surgeries in the same year. And there was nothing else I could do but recover. I couldn't grind. I didn't have the stamina for it. I didn't have the energy for it. Mentality wise, I was checked out. All I could do is prioritize me resting, getting better, so that I knew I could go back and grind later on. And it took time. I mean, months of time for rest and recovery. It is not fun, but there's no choice. I remember on day 4 after one of my surgeries, walking 5 miles with my family in St. Augustine. It was Christmas time, and it kicked my butt. I remember getting back home. I remember feeling where the incisions were, and it just started to pool up. And they thought it was a hernia, and it wasn't. It was actually blood building up because parts had ripped, and nothing bad happened from it. But it was really a big wake-up call to say, hey, slow down. Like, you can't do this. You're 4 days out of surgery. You shouldn't be walking 5 miles 4 days out of surgery. So it was definitely a big wake-up call that sometimes, yes, you got to downshift, and you got to rest, recover, and rejuvenate. So that's knowing the season that you're in. And then the third season is the rhythm season. That's when it's really mastering the mundane. It's keep doing what's working, right? If you're still looking to grow, it is not like, hey, go crazy and crank on everything. Rhythm season is when things are in balance and in check. And that's when you can kind of glide. That's when having family time, friend time, social time, work time, right? That's when you can really start to use block scheduling to your advantage to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put 90 minutes on my schedule to just work out, to work on me, to put the oxygen mask on myself first so that I can be the best version of myself going forward. Next, we want to pick priorities. This is one of the biggest things. Prioritize your life in what it is that you're going through. If you're not going to prioritize it, you're going to live by default. Somebody else is going to prioritize for you. And a lot of times it's not on the things that you want. There's a saying out there that if you're not working on your dreams, somebody will hire you to work on theirs. It is 100% true. So this is where understanding what matters to you most in the time and the season that you're in will actually come into play. And when you really need to think about what's going to move the needle forward, this is when you actually get to think, to plan, to map stuff out so that when you go back into growth stage, you know what actions to take and you can focus on it. Focusing is all about saying no to other things that are actually taking you away from your focus and your goals, and saying yes to what it is. This could be like growing a business to 10 grand a month, deepening your relationship with your spouse, or just rebuilding your mental and physical well-being. Once you pick those 3, time to go all in. This is where the Wake Up on Purpose Planner comes in. This is broken down into 90-day periods so that you can have that focus, right? You pick your top 3 things, break it out over 3 months, and then break that down into further segments so that you know what you're doing day by day, week by week, month by month. And at the end of 90 days, you come out cranking away and actually going after and accomplishing your goals. That is the key, right? This isn't about being lazy and not doing those things. This is about staying focused and actually accomplishing those things. That is why I created it, because during those times of rest and recovery, I had to figure out, how do I keep my mind sharp and how do I start planning for where I want to go? That is when I got some of the most deep work done on myself in figuring out, who am I, where am I going, and what am I doing? What are my gifts, and how do I actually share that with people? Because I'll tell you, it isn't easy, right? Being able to rest and recover, while it is crucial, it is definitely one of the hardest things that you can actually do since I'm so active. One of the questions that I get all the time is, I'm in a job that I hate. I don't want to do it. It doesn't resonate with who I am. It goes against my own core values, or it's just not fulfilling. It's not what I want to be doing. It's not where I see myself long term. Awesome. Great awareness on that. Now accept where you are, right? You are where you are, and that's it. It's okay. The key to this is to create a present for yourself. And that is, your job right now is serving something, right? It's creating an income for you. And it could be giving you the experience you need or want to get to either the next level or to your next job. The key is to reframe the way that you look at your job right now, and to look at what are the benefits that I can get out of this that I can translate into what I want to do next? If you start thinking of things like that, then all of a sudden you show up a different way to work. Yes, your boss still might be a jerk. Yes, your coworkers may not like you. And yes, the work may not be fulfilling to you. But how do you transcribe, translate, transform, reframe everything that you're currently doing into something that actually propels you forward? And if that isn't enough to get you fired up to go into work tomorrow and actually be excited about it, because in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 3 months from now, you start looking and building your portfolio, building your resume, building the contacts that'll get you out of where it is that you want, that is when things get to be exciting. The key here is to create a positive reframe around the position that you're currently in and how it's benefiting you, and then be able to decide what it is that you want to do moving forward. So many people will constantly ask me, well, I don't know what I want to do. Well, then don't hate your job, because there's no reason to hate it. If you don't know where you're going, there's no reason to be in the situation that you're currently in, right? Up and until you decide. And for some people, that's the hardest thing, is to actually just decide, pick a direction, not be told by anybody else where to go, what to do, and how to do it, right? That is where the key comes in. When you think about, you're handed a blank canvas, an empty sheet of paper. You're told to paint something. You're told to write a book. You're told to write a song. And you've got no clue where to even start. Now we've got some thinking to do. That's where I think most people seem to get stuck, is they don't know where they want to go. They don't know what they want to do. They don't have any dreams, goals, or aspirations. That's why the first part of success is desire, the actual wanting to do something. Until you have that spark, until you understand what it is that you want to go after, you can never create a compelling vision of where you're going to go, what it's going to look like, or create a map, a massive action plan to actually get there, or take the actions to do it. And nobody is going to be able to tell you where you can go, what you can do, and you'll believe it. That's coming from you. That's where really sitting back and taking that time to understand who you are, what it is that you want to do. That is why I always start with core values. Is what are your core values? Where do you want to go? How do you align? What do you see for yourself 10 years from now? That's when you really start to figure out how you can undo being unbalanced so that you can achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So make sure that you look at your job in a different way. Realize the balance is a myth. Trying to chase it is going to keep you stuck on a hamster wheel, spinning around the clock and never actually getting to where you want to go. In order to do this, you need to align with the season that you're in. So start by identifying the season you're in, set your priorities, and then get to work on going after them. When you do undo unbalanced, you start to live a life on purpose. I'm Dan Beldowicz, and it's time to wake up on purpose. Please subscribe and like to get more of these. These will be coming to you every single week. I look forward to it. Have an awesome night.